Hello there, Facebook world. Just give me 1 minute. Oh, oops. I am just also going to go live on Instagram. So hold on 1 second. Just setting that up. Just setting that up. Um, yeah. Cool. I think I'm live on Instagram. Hello, Instagram. Hello, Facebook. So I'm live on two separate devices here, which is why sometimes I'll be looking here and this is Facebook. Hello. And sometimes I'll be looking here and that is Instagram. Hello. I've tried to do my best so that, in one gaze I can I can accommodate both devices in one gaze. But hello, this is Dr. Khushboo Shah, and welcome to call number 3 of a series that we're doing, a free series called Seeds of Possibilities, where I read a few. When I read some few lines, few interesting tips and tools from some of the books that have absolutely changed my life and continue to do so. I am an Access Consciousness facilitator. I'm also a Talk to the Entities facilitator. And today, the book that I've picked up is Talk to the Entities. All right, so Talk to the Entities. So that's Instagram, and this is Facebook. Okay. So for those who wonder why I'm looking here and there, that's because I am looking at two different cameras and two different devices. So, well, ah, before I begin to read, let me tell you that Dr. The Entities has deeply changed my reality. Um, so if you've been one of those that has been aware of ghosts all their life, um, and well, we no one, I can tell you, no one's given you education about how to deal with it. Either it is they don't exist, or you're crazy to even think that they exist, or it's full of drama and a lot of unconsciousness and a lot of control and a lot of fear and a lot of really mean stuff with it. Okay, so but this is an invitation, quite literally it says so on the book, an invitation to a totally different possibility. Okay, so this is pretty much the first time that I actually opened up to that world of entities without thinking I'm crazy, or without it sort of, like cringing you out because most of the stuff that you hear is filled with drama, and you want something that is not that, something that really speaks to you and in a gentle, happy way, but yet become present. So if you're one of those crazy ones who's always been aware of entities, the weird ones, and you've never had the tools to deal with it, this was the book that I first read that started giving me ease. And then eventually I started attending these classes. I eventually became a facilitator. And Shannon O'Hara, who's written this book, is basically the stepdaughter of the founder of Access Consciousness, where the tools of TTTE, Talk to the Entities, comes from. Okay, so this is these. So you can please. I'm not going to be reading the whole book. Obviously not. I'll be reading some parts, energetically picking up whatever feels light and would be relevant to a lot of people here. If it calls, just go and get the book at least and start changing your reality. Because if you're aware of ghosts and spirits, or chances are a lot of the things that, your moods and a lot of things that are going on with you are not really a problem, but really just your awareness that you're resisting. Okay, and honestly, there is nothing else that gives you real, like I have not found till date, or anything else that has given me conscious, happy education about the spirit world without going crazy about it. Okay, without like me being extremely significant, but something that deeply changed my reality. Okay, so if you're aware of Talk to the Entities, you want to go check this book out. And now I'm going to read a few lines, a few parts, not just lines. So I'm first going to read something from the foreword, okay, wherein Shannon has spoken about why she wrote this, why there is Talk to the Entities. Okay, so when I'm saying I throughout this book, it's not me, it is the writer Shannon. Okay, so I, which is Shannon, know myself and many of the Talk to the Entities facilitators are working towards a future where fear of entities is in the long distant past, where the superstitions, hysteria, and impotency regarding the spirit world is the exception and not the norm. I personally would love to see a future, I, meaning Shannon, but this also includes me though. I personally would love to see a future where spirit consciousness was known and dealt with, and the tools of access consciousness and talk to the entities were used in all sorts of educational platforms to empower people. Also, to see it being used with psychiatric institutions to educate rather than medicate. Deep change is required. I would love to see a future where the spirit world came out of the shadows and was exposed to the light so that all could see and know the peace and ease that could be there. No longer fearing death as the end, no longer deeply judging those that hear the voices of the spirit world, and no longer hiding the keys to awareness that would and will set many free. If this is your first time reading this book, I hope you enjoyed, and perhaps a few light bulbs will go off, and you may find a few keys to unlocking your own world. And if you're reading this book again, perhaps you will use those keys to go deeper in what you already know. How does it get better? And what else is possible with the tools of consciousness firmly in your hands? Part 1. That's Shannon. Part 1. In the beginning. Yeah. Our deepest fear is not that we're inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we're so powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that frightens us. Marion Williamson. Chapter 1. Children hold the keys. Ah, you know those babies are always staring at what looks like nothing and pointing at what looks like nothing? I was one of them. I is Shannon throughout when I read this. My mom used to say that when I, Shannon, was a little thing, I would lie in my crib on my back, giggling and cooing in my baby language and reach out with my hands towards something she couldn't see. I would stare at the space around people's heads so intently that it made them wonder if there was something next to them or behind them. They would look to see, and to them, there was nothing there. There was to me, I was looking at the entities and energy fields around them. So while we're reading, even when I started reading this, I realized that so many things that she's put into words here as stories would actually be relevant to some of the situations and some of the things you as a kid were aware of and throughout your life. Yeah. Where is the fine line we cross as children? When do we give up seeing in favor of not knowing and not seeing? There were grids and lines in the air that undulated and simmered with energy. Everything pulsated with electricity and color. It wasn't until I was 10 or 11 that I realized other people were not seeing and experiencing what I was seeing, at least not that they were saying. As a child, I did not know what telepathy was. Hello, Anita. But I sure heard people thinking a lot. It's strange when you can hear 5 different conversations coming out of someone's head. One of the conversations is coming out of their mouth, and the other 4 are coming, hold on 1 second, from somewhere else. It's quite interesting to see how many different points of views a person can have at any given moment. It was like perceiving all of their lives, past, present, and future, at once. I could see them standing in front of me in the present, and I could also see them in what I grew to realize was another life or dimension. Someone could stand in front of me, and I could watch them morph into all sorts of things. 1 second. I'm back. Sorry, I have to adjust a few things. So that's Instagram world, and this is Facebook. So if you're wondering why there's a weird angle every time I'm reading, it's because I'm doing this simultaneously on 2 devices. I didn't really get why, when I would try to talk about this with people, they would look at me like I was a crazy person or a leper. But eventually I figured out it wasn't safe to talk about it with most people. So you want to look at that in your worlds. What is like the weirdest thing that you were aware of, but it just wasn't safe to talk about because, well, nobody believed you, or they would call you crazy, or they would shut you down, etc., etc. So I just stopped talking about it, and eventually I stopped seeing and perceiving it. Because if others thought it was crazy, there must be something wrong with me. I could see the bad that some people had done, whether or not they were doing bad things this lifetime. I could see what they had done or what they would do, whether they were aware of it or not. I could also see if someone was in someone. Eventually, I realized, thanks to my stepdad, which is Gary Douglas, who's the founder of Access, that I was seeing them in all their different incarnations. He was full of all sorts of handy tools for making sense of not very sensible things. I was constantly answering questions that people had asked in their heads. I is Shannon. Shannon, would kick my brother's butt when we played psychic exercise games with our dad during long car trips. That's right. Instead of playing I Spy, my stepdad, which was Gary Douglas, would think of a color or a place or a shape, and we would practice receiving the information psychically and then relaying it. I thought all children were raised learning to pull pictures and information out of people's heads. I was never told it was impossible or wrong. In fact, I was encouraged to develop it. Rough stuff would come later when I was a teen trying to fit in. But as a kid, I was all ease and magic. None of us were. I didn't even think of it as magic. It was just the amazing world I lived in. Kids are so lucky. My mom would think how much she loved me, and I would reply out loud, I love you too, mommy. She always got a big giggle out of this. So, you want to look at, sorry, I have a little bit of a cold. You want to look at how you were also as a child and how everything was open. And what happens with a lot of these things that we're aware of that do not fit an adult reality is we start shutting it off because otherwise we're too crazy or we live in la la land or you know you were asked to be logical, etc., and constantly shut your awareness down. But if you didn't, if you still had that childlike wonder as an adult, what would be available to you? And that's what Talk to the Entities did for me. So I thought I could be an adult with the wonder and everything that I've been aware of. So as I'm reading this, I hope it makes, look at where it actually makes sense to you as your life in living. Okay. Growing up weird. Did you know that the original definition? So, if any of y'all thought you're weird because, well, you were called weird, just weird. Like, why do you believe in these things and stuff like that? Growing up weird. Did you know that the original definition of the word weird is of spirit, fate, or destiny, partaking in the supernatural? So, when you say that something is weird, you're actually saying it's a spirit, fate, or destiny. Isn't that weird? Shannon, was born in Los Angeles, California on a blazing hot day in early October 1979. It was so hot that summer that during my mother's pregnancy, every joint in her body swelled to twice its normal size. Ah, the miracle of childbirth. I was born without drugs of any kind due to my mother's strong will. I find this amazing and consider myself quite lucky. My mother was the eldest of four children, raised in the tradition of Irish American immigrants. Her upbringing in northeastern Pennsylvania steeped in heavy religion and alcohol. An Aries, she had a fiery temper and a strong spirit. She had my older brother Adam when she was 20, unmarried and unsupported. Searching for something better, she was told that anything was possible out west if you had the determination to make it happen. So in the early 70s, she set forth with her firstborn, my eldest brother. She made the journey to Southern California with only a few dollars in her pocket and a baby boy on her hip. She found her Mecca, as she would later call it, in Los Angeles. Warm weather and its more progressive liberal environment. Slowly, my mom got her foot in and the doorway of the movie industry, and she worked her way up as an agent for the glitzy and glamorous of the celebrity star machine. Around this time, she met my birth father. My father was a modern day wandering Jew. I don't know why I'm reading this, but it sounds like a very interesting story, and I'm getting interested. I've read it before. He was raised by Jewish, Lithuanian, Polish immigrants in the lovely ghettos of London, England. Greatly disliking London as a young man, he fled to the Israeli army at the age of 18, escaping London's miserable weather and the life of a teenage factory worker. Being a bit of a mystic and something of a recluse, the expansive openness of the Sinai Desert after the poverty, overcrowded living, and grief of London's was a welcome change. And as chance would have it, after a hiatus back to London, he found his way onto a plane bound for New York City, using a $20 ticket claimed from a bulletin board in a pub. He made his way to Los Angeles in 1977 after checking out the New York art scene and everything in between. Soon thereafter, he met my mother. They had me in 1979 and never married. They were just another young Southern Californian couple making up life as they went along. They tried to make their relationship work, but alas, it was not meant to be. Few years after I was born, they separated on good terms and to this day have remained friends. It's interesting why I'm reading this story, but it is what it is. So you also want to know how much what how much of the things that we don't remember cognitively right now actually has an impact on your psyche, on the way you're functioning in life today. Okay, so from the time you were born till now, everything that you are picking up from your parents, everything that they went on, you may not know it cognitively, but there's a lot happening uh, that you're constantly aware of, and you're actually building the way you function and behave to everything right from there. So you want to become aware of, wonder what my parents were like before I was born. I wonder what their points of views were when I was born. I wonder what their points of views were after, and how much did I buy into it. Yay! Now, oh, I wonder what else we can look at. The spirits make me sick. Okay, so this is another chapter in this book, Doctor the Entities. So for those who this is relevant to, sometimes your awareness of entities and spirits is so massive that it can physically affect you. Not because they want to try to hurt you, but because you're aware of something and your body is willing to be aware of, but you're not. And that's what causes those signs and symptoms of sickness, etc. And as soon as you turn your attention to it, it can start changing. Okay. So my reading this is for you to realize where this is actually relevant to y'all in your lives. Okay. I'm not saying every time you fall sick it's because of entities. I'm saying, what if you included the awareness of entities and be let that be available to you as something that you can look at when it is actually relevant. And because if you don't look at it when it's actually relevant, it can make things worse. Cool. The spirits make me sick. Sick, not sick. The spirits make me sick. My first trip to London introduced me. My is Shannon. My Shannon's first trip to London introduced me to many new things. I met all of my father's Jewish family, ate chopped liver for the first and last time, and celebrated my first Jewish holiday. After the dinner ceremony, my cousins and I were set free to prowl and roam around the neighborhood streets. I thought this was awesome. My father was raised in a traditional Jewish family but had left his religion behind when he traveled to the shores to America. I did not even know that my father spoke and read Hebrew until this first trip to London. Bless my father's heart, in addition to giving me the experience of meeting my English family, he took me sightseeing around some of the historic sites of London. We first went to the Tower of London. I had no idea what would be in store for me as we left my grandmother's flat and ventured into the city. But really, my memories of the tower are not all that fond. As a kid, I didn't have much historical interest or curiosity. Going there was just another day out with my dad. I just stuck with him throughout all the hustle and the bustle. For those of you who don't know, the Tower of London was a prison where horrific torture and executions of various members of the royal family took place. Being sent to the Tower meant you were a person of great stature, but it also meant you were screwed. It wouldn't have been my choice for a sunny afternoon in London, but there we were. Outside in the courtyards and walkways, there were so many tourists that it was difficult to notice much of anything out of the ordinary. But stepping into the buildings of the tower, the walls tell many stories. My father recently told me that when he was a young boy, a friend of his was the son of the keeper of the ravens in the tower. The raven is a symbol of the English monarchy. If a raven died or flew away, that meant the monarchy was falling. So you can imagine that keeping these birds alive is a job of the utmost importance. My father would go visit his little friend who actually lived inside the tower. This was before the tower became a tourist spot. My father would be let in through the fortress gates, and he would have to walk unaccompanied to where his friend and his friend's father lived. He had to cross over the bridge where prisoners in cages were submerged to drown in the 1800s. My father told me that he would run full tilt across this bridge because it was so frightening for him. As a boy, he saw many spirits at that hour, but he neglected to remember this information when it would have come in most handy. Deal, like dealing with me on my first, this lifetime, visit to the tower. We went in and out of several of the large stone towers until we came to one that was really hard for me. We came upon a long, dark hallway lined with suits of armor. Before we even got to this hallway, I was already feeling the spirits there. As we approached the hallway, I was becoming more and more nervous and feeling sick to my stomach. If I'd been able to, I could have asked to leave immediately, but there was no way around. No way I could. My mouth was frozen mute and I was being energetically pulled along. My eyes staring wide down the hall, I was dragged into a dark place where there was no sense of hope for survival. Looking back, I now realize that I was just aware of the thoughts and feelings of the spirits that had been condemned to die there. All of the bodies of these condemned people had long ago passed, their spirits still resided in the halls of the chambers. This place was filled with ghosts looming either in a state of mourning or in an unshakable fear of the death they had gone through hundreds of years earlier. So, the reason you need to know this is if you are aware of spirits and you walk into some of these places and you start feeling things, uncomfortable things, it's not yours. You're just aware. And so I remember when I first went to London, and the only time that I've been to London, I actually did not like it at all. I felt extremely depressed. When we went to Scotland was when I got a little like space, but I really felt extremely depressed. Now at that point, I wasn't really doing talk to the entities that much, and I just sort of started to explore access consciousness. And I remember just going like, who does this belong to? Who does this belong to? Like I literally felt like depressed in London, and I thought I was depressed. Now that I look back, it's just the awareness that you have. So now when I go to London next, I will just know this. I will use the tools of TTT, clear whatever has to be clear, because you being the gift and you start noticing that some of these signs and symptoms is just your awareness. You're not crazy. You're not crazy. I wasn't depressed. I was so happy to go to London. And I was like, why do I feel so bad? So I felt bad because it wasn't me. I was aware. So now I go anywhere and you start feeling a little weird, like, just know that you're aware. No one's out to get you, no one's going to do anything to you. Just know that you're aware of some of these stuck entities in these places that are stuck. An entity is stuck. What is an entity? As an entity is anything that is stuck in time and space in that identity. So if they died in the 16th century in a war, they still think they're still in that war, and it is still 16th century, and it is that identity that they still have as reality, but they're stuck in that time and space. So imagine being stuck forever and ever, because they don't perceive time and space the way we do. And that's what creates a lot of the angst, along with the fact of how they died and etc., that they still carry. So if you're aware and you walk into these places that have these energies, it's not negative energy, it's just things that require your attention if you're aware. So now when I'm in these places, all I do is, first of all, I ask, is this mine? And if it lightens up at all, you know so here's what I do. So let me take you through this basic tool. If you go somewhere and you've been happy and suddenly you start feeling different and you start feeling wonky, you first want to ask, is it yours? If it's heavy, it's not yours. Then ask, is it someone else's? 99% of the times it's someone else's. Okay, if it is someone else's and it lightens up, it's not yours. So now you have to just use the tool, who does this belong to, and return to sender with consciousness. So you literally just go, who does this belong to, and return it. Now, sometimes it's not people that you're aware of. Okay, people's thoughts, feelings, emotions. You're actually aware. Sometimes, no. A lot of times, if you're aware of spirits, you're going to be aware of them wherever you go, especially in the countries we live, because there are actually areas which are dense and filled with these things. So you just want to go, wait, am I aware of entities? You have to ask the question first. Ask a question first. So, am I aware of entities? And when you ask, am I aware of entities, and it lightens up, okay, I am aware of entities. Now, 84%, and I know I'm just saying that, but most of them just need to be cleared. Okay, so there is clearing, there's communication, there's receiving, and there's cooperation. Okay, in Talk to the Entities, these are the four things around which the entire curriculum of Talk to the Entities is based. Most of them is the require the first thing, that is clearing. Okay, if you're aware, if you're highly aware of the spirit world and you just know how to clear them, you will have ease with most of these places and you will not make them, and you can actually go enjoy London. Okay, because it would have been fun to enjoy London. So uh, and I'm actually going to do this with y'all, since whoever's here, it may actually be relevant. So the way we clear entities in access consciousness is actually very easy. We're just reminding them. So we go, so just relax right now. Okay, I know this is weird, I know I'm talking about a very weird topic, but for whoever this is relevant, this can be supremely freeing. Okay, so you want to relax right now first, really relax. And can I tell you what, like, this is it's very interesting. It's the weirdest topic, but the topic that pulls a lot of people in. So it's interesting. So you are more aware of entities than you acknowledge. All right, so relax. And now this is how we clear. Truth. So all of the entities that want to be cleared, yeah, just relax down your attention. All of the entities that you're aware of that want to be cleared. Truth, who are y'all? Truth, who were y'all before that? 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 And truth, who would you like to be in the future? Truth, what are y'all? Truth, what were y'all before that? Truth, what were y'all before that? Truth, what were y'all before that? What were y'all before that? Truth, what would you like to be in the future? Truth, what are your jobs? What were your jobs before that, before that, before that, before that, before that? And truth, what would you like to have as your job in the future? Bridget will render. Ah, yes, so they can leave. And so you just like, this is pretty much, and you'll sense a difference. If you don't sense a difference right now, it's okay. But a lot of people will feel like their body has relaxed, and then you uncreate and destroy all of the electromagnetic imprinting and implanting that they left behind. And right, wrong, good, bad, popcorn, all nine shorts, boys, mobiles, and beyonds. This last gobbledygook sentence is the clearing sentence, or the clearing statement in Access Consciousness. Please go to www.theclearingstatement to find out more. Okay, so what we did was we just reminded them, we're like, hey, who are you? Okay, so we literally, because they're so confused a lot of times, you want to like, who are you? And then you're taking them through. You were something else before, you were something else before, you were something else before. You're asking them to become aware of what they were before. You're moving them through time and space without being very dramatic about it. And then when it lightens up, there's some solidity that moves in their space that allows them to choose something else for the future rather than being stuck. What they choose as their future is up to them. It's not something that we have to really worry about. All of this sounds extremely weird, but for those who this works for, will work brilliantly if you just keep a little bit of a open mind. Okay? So the reason we're reading the stories is everything. So if you're aware of spirits, this stuff that you've been aware of, it's just your awareness. You're not crazy, you're aware. If you acknowledge that you're just aware and then use some of these tools which are empowering, not oh my god, something's out to get me, oh my god, I need to take wear this to protect myself from this, oh my god, blah 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 blah. We want to get out of all of that drama and into being pragmatic with our awareness. Cool. So I hope that helped. All right. And if you want to know more about what I just did, please, this is just what is in the scope of my doing this as a live online. We've got classes which go very deep into these. Yeah, I have an introduction talk to the entities coming up, which is free for everybody. No, it's not free for anyone. Sorry, it has no prerequisites. Okay, so Talk to the Entities intro has no prerequisites, which means anyone can join in. It's in Bangalore and it's also online. So you can pretty much join this anytime. This is on the 20th of March. Okay, so even if you've not done any access, you can come and attend the intro. Okay, it's a 2 hour introduction to Talk to the Entities. It is open for everybody, it's not free, it's a paid class. 21st and 22nd, I actually have the beginning class, okay, which is again in Bangalore. That is only in person in Bangalore. And then I also have the intermediate class, which is a class after the beginning, which is a deeper dive into it. Okay. So know that these things are just to get you started already and use them. And if it works for you, or if you're intrigued by this at all, or anything lightened up in your spaces today, please reach out. We're here. What else? What else can I read that would actually be of contribution to everyone here? I love this part. So, dealing with the spirit world doesn't just mean dealing with things that are stuck. It also means you get to open up to the magic of the spirit world, the lighter, the less defined um, beings and spirits. Okay, so the next one is enchanted earth and enchanted forest. Okay, so we're talking about spirits of the earth, uh, which I love this topic. So at age 20, I, Shannon, visited New Zealand for the first time. Gary was doing a 10-day intensive class there. We were in a place called Rotorua, about 3 hours south of Auckland. Rotorua is famous for its sulfuric geothermal underground activity. The first day I was there, I ran through a stream, and guess what? It was hot. The property where the class was being held was an epic, beautiful piece of land. A lot of the property had been cleared for sheep grazing, so there were lots of iridescent rolling hills edged by thick, dark green forest. Around one of the large rolling hills, a path descended down through a forest straight right out of the Lord of the Rings to an enchanted jade colored lake. The first day I found this path, I did not take it. I walked to the forest edge and, without knowing why, turned around to explore other parts of the property. That day I found a zip line. A zip line is called a flying fox in Australia and New Zealand. It's a heavy piece of cable that stretches from high point to a low point with a pulley and handles that zip you down. Okay? What do we call this here? I think we call it zip line. The ropeway. Like a ropeway. I spent most of that afternoon running to the top of the hill, zipping down as fast as I could with my knees tucked into my chest and running back up to do it all over again. I love New Zealand. I came to the path again the second and third day and again did not enter the forest. On the fourth day, the weather became sweltering, and I thought, I have to go see this lake and have a swim. As I stood at the edge of the forest, just looking at it, I had the strangest feeling, but I didn't really know what it was. I just set my feet walking and I entered the forest's edge. As soon as I was all amongst the trees, the bright morning light dimmed to a green, almost sparkling haze. The trees were thick, huge, and gnarled together. The floor of the forest was covered in a thick mass of ferns. Some of the ferns towered over me, and vivid green moss grew on the tree trunks. The calls of the birds drew me deeper into the forest, and as I descended, I began to hear what I swear was laughter, and I felt as though twinkling lights were hovering within the boughs of the trees. I saw something sparkle out of the corner of my eye, but when I turned to look, I couldn't see anything there. How many times have you seen something sparkle right out of the corner of the eye, and then when you turned, you were like, there was nothing there, but you know you saw it? There was something darting about in the path just out of my eyesight. At first, I thought I was just tripping over the rocks, but then it fell altogether as if I was being tripped. I called out for it to stop without knowing what I was addressing, and it did stop. I continued down the path and eventually came to the large, light green lake surrounded on most sides by high, sheer rock walls. I could see to the other side of the water, but it was a far way off. I stood and soaked up the hot morning sun and the majestic sights of this quiet, untouched, alive place. I slipped off my shoes and stood with my toes in the water's edge. I am reading this book just as a reminder, Talk to the Entities by Shannon O'Hara. I was very hot even though it was only early morning, and I was very much interested in dipping my body in the cool water. But something forbade me from entering the lake. The light sparkling of the rippling water seemed to be telling me something. It was not cognitive, it was getting its message across to me. Spirits in the water did not want me to enter. At the time, I did not cognitively think, oh, the spirits in this lake don't want me to enter. I just knew I was not going in the water. The water was beautiful, but there was something almost eerie and strange about it. So I just turned around and headed back up the path to have a shower and go to class. On the way up the path, I found myself stopping to stare at the energy around the trees and the mesmerizing something coming through the leaves. At this point in time, I was 20 and I was just coming out of the years of trying to not be aware of this sort of thing. I was not fully conscious of what I was privy to there in that forest in New Zealand on a hot summer morning in the year 2000. Something was starting to come through to me. Something was waking up in me and changing me. My fingers began to tingle and shake, and my head was light. My vision began warping and quivering. I sat down the path and had to place the palms of my hands flat on the earth, and the voices of the spirits of the trees began to come to me. They laughed and giggled and tickled my face. If I had known better, I would think I was high on drugs. But this was real. This was actually happening. I could not exactly decipher what they were saying, but the beings of this natural place were intervening in my life to heal me, change me, and show me another possibility. Oh, relax and receive. Call them fairies, call them tree nymphs, call them what you will. This place was full of spirits. Not human spirits, but lighter, brighter, sharper, glittering spirits. Okay? I began seeing into another dimension where my mind made no sense, and I began to be afraid. As soon as the fear came, all the laughter and sparkling stopped, and I knew I had stopped it. I was annoyed with myself because I lost the glorious feelings that were running through me, and at the same time, I was not sure about where I was going and whether I was safe there. I was confused about how to let go into this magical place and keep my sanity. And then it came to me like a ton of bricks. I remember a time when I was 18 and two of my friends and I walked up the mountains of Santa Barbara to eat magic mushrooms. I remember the letting go of that time and the deep places of communion with nature that the drug gave me access to. You don't need drugs anymore to access anyway, that's not what she's saying. It was actually the first time since childhood that I saw and knew there were spirits in water in nature. My friends and I found a place by a creek with large rocks to sit on it, and I spent most of the day squatting down by the pool formed by a deep bend in the creek. All I could do was stare and stare at the water and say, "Can you see that? Can you see that?" But no one heard me. My friends were off climbing the trees. The spirits in the creek that day in Santa Barbara evoked something I had never felt before. It was a sense of knowing everything from forever and everywhere. It was a deep sense of wholeness and peace that had no feelings or thoughts to it, only infinite, awesome space. I couldn't figure out if seeing and feeling the spirits in the water was terrifying or fascinating. So, everything unknown is terrifying and fascinating to all of us. Oh, I was mesmerized, unable to walk away or walk into the water. I just sat in the dirt and leaves by the creek and kept going deeper and deeper with my consciousness into the dark water, quite literally having my mind blown. Cool. Awesome. Thank you guys for those who patiently listened to this very different book read today. Okay. So the invitation of Talk to the Entities is you're not wrong. Okay. And spirits exist. It would really be, you would have to cut out a lot of your awareness into logical thinking to believe that that doesn't exist, but you also don't have to be dramatic about it. And if you've been aware, there's a lot of things that are going on psychologically, physiologically, that can start changing if you had the right tools to deal with your awareness. And that's the invitation of talk to the entities. Talking to entities does not only mean you have to deal with stuck human spirits, but if you open up to this, you can also open up to the spirits of the earth, you can open up to the beings of light, you can open up to your teammates, and all of these beautiful things that are living on this planet with us, that if we did open up to, would what magic can we invite back into our lives and living? Okay. And not from craziness, but from knowing there's a lot more out there that we haven't yet opened up to, that we always knew existed. Okay. That we shut off. But if you start working with these spirits again, the spirits of the earth, you can actually start we can actually start rebuilding the health of the planet as well, because they know something that is different. Awesome. Okay, so I'm gonna stop this. I'm gonna end, not stop, but I'm gonna end this book read here. I hope it helped. We did do the clearing. Thank you so much, Rashmi. We did do the clearing. Please do the clearing. If you're aware, don't deny it, because it will hurt you physically, psychologically as well if you deny it. If you don't deny it, it can open you up to a general sense of lightness in a world that is very tense. Okay. Um, so, what gift are you? What gift is your weirdness? And is now the time to open up to it even more. Witchcraft is legal. You will not be burnt at stake. Ah, what else is possible? Cool. Thank you so much. Thank you, Washima. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Yay! And I will see you all with another book about 2 weeks from now. What else is possible? Thank you. Bye.